If you're thinking about living downtown Austin, it's easy to talk about the views or to talk about the interior design of the condo or the apartment that you might want to live in. But the other piece is to understand what's right outside your front door, because there are distinct areas in this city, and I want to give you a feel for what it's like to live in these different areas so you get a better feel for the different vibes. Let's start with one of the most popular areas, East Austin. Take a look down here. You'll see that you're not that far away from downtown. This part of town has that vibe of some of these older buildings over this way, intermixed with this newer development. We're gonna see more of that here in a little bit. This one has been sold. There's no longer a business here, and here you've got an empty lot where somebody is waiting to develop something here. And that's part of the challenge. You can't develop something until you have enough land. Like for instance, this one over here is they had to buy like 4 or 5 buildings before they could develop the newer building. And in some cases that might take time. They may not all be available at the same time. Come on up this way here. This street's an example of they've developed the entire block. You're going to see retail, you're going to see restaurants, and clearly it's a lot different than the look across the street that hasn't been developed yet. So they've been able to convince the entire state of California and most of Texas that Austin is not Texas. Well, let me ask you a question. Where is the oldest bar in Texas located? It's right here, East Austin. This is the Scoot Inn. It's been in operation since 1871. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty Texan to me. Middle of a day on a weekday, you're not going to have nearly as much foot traffic down here. Where this place really comes alive is in the evenings, particularly on the weekends. Now, if you're interested in living in this area, the good news is that prices are lower on condos and apartments than they are west of I-35. A lot of the newer buildings cluster around the Red Line transit stop at the Plaza Saltillo station. Another thing about East Austin is there are homes available here. These neighborhoods were originally built in the 40s and 50s, but you can clearly see there has been a lot of contemporary development here as well. Next up, let's take a look at what it's like to live close to the Market District. This big, very unique design, that's the Independent. That's one of the most recent luxury high-rises. A lot of these smaller buildings are going to be apartments. You got another one across the way here on West Avenue. We're not Manhattan yet, but in a very short period of time, they have dramatically increased the density, just the sheer number of people that live on that same couple of city blocks. This is the Shoal Creek Greenbelt, and you can see there are walking trails and a lot of trees right in the middle of all these buildings. That building over there is the new 6th and Guadalupe building, which is now the tallest building in Austin. You got condos there, of course it's Independent, and then over there, plus all of the apartments interspersed in, which is one thing you need to be aware of if you wanted to buy a condo. A lot of those homeowners associations are not going to let you rent it, especially if you're thinking Airbnb, because they want to preserve the value by only having owners live there. Prices in this area are going to vary. The C Home, which is back that way, and the 360 condos, which is just up ahead, you'll be able to find one bedrooms in that $500,000 range. But buildings like the Independent will get much more expensive quickly. Some of the penthouses there are in that $4 to $5 million range. Right across this way here is that 360 I just mentioned. There's a good shot of one of the new ones going up with that crane. The ground floors are going to be businesses, coffee shops, restaurants. One con about living in this area is that's not going anywhere. That's the Austin Power Company. And if you can imagine, if you're up in one of those C-Home condos over there, this is your view. One big plus of this area is its location. You're literally blocks away from the hike and bike trails and also blocks away from all the action up here on 6th Street. The point of reference, this is 5th. We got one more to get to 6th, and all those condos we just looked at were just 2 streets down that way. That's a good view of that new 6th and Guadalupe building. As you can see, this side of 6th Street is a little bit different feel than the area closer to Congress. Those are going to be much older buildings. Some of those were built in the late 1800s. There are some older businesses on this part of 6th Street. For instance, these smaller restaurants here, they've been here a while. But they're slowly giving way to the newer developments. Next up is an area that has seen a lot of new condo development, Rainey Street. This used to be not a very desirable area to live in, so the value of the houses were on the low end. In the early 80s, Austin decided to make it an historical district because the houses were older and all that. An historical building is not supposed to be torn down historical building is supposed to be preserved because it has some type of value historically, right? Well, in the early 2000s, they completely changed course. They eliminated the historical building and raised the height limits, which began the condo development down here. One of the pluses about living down here, of course, you've got access to everything that we're going to see with respect to the condos and the nightlife, but you're literally walk out your door and you've got access to all of the hike and bike trails down here. So as you see, a much different feel here on Rainey Street compared to those other areas we looked at earlier. This really has kind of become its own vibe, if you will. It used to be all of the bars, but now it's all the high-rise. Now this one here, coming up on the left here, this black one, that's one of the first luxury condos they built downtown. That's 70 Rainey. The unique design, it's not just a box with windows on it. If you come down around this way, you can see that it actually sits on an angle. You see how the top part of that building sits at an angle? They did that for views. Instead of going up as a box, they turned it that way so you have better views, and those are unrestricted views, is you're never going to have anything built on that side of it that's going to obstruct your view. Yeah, the thing about coming down here, there's not a whole lot of activity because it's the middle of the day. I guess you don't have a whole lot of day drinkers today. This one here gives you a feel for what those houses looked like before they started developing them. When they first started changing this into a business district, they just put the bars and the restaurant right inside the old houses. These are just a few of the ones that are still remaining. The other ones have been replaced by the condos. Here's a couple others with the older buildings that have just been converted. And at some point, all of these will likely be replaced with condos like over here.
Pricing on Rainey Street condos will be on the high end. You're probably looking at somewhere around $500,000 as an entry-level price point, all the way up to several million for a penthouse in one of those luxury buildings like 70 Rainey. Now, there are a lot of advantages to living here, and there are a lot of rental options if you want to check it out before you buy. With all the new buildings going up, it doesn't look like there'll be any shortage of supply anytime soon. The question, though, is will there continue to be enough people ready to buy all these new units? Don't hesitate to reach out if you're interested in learning more about buying or selling real estate anywhere in the Austin area. And you might want to check out this video about the housing options available south of the river.